hear your take.
I want to ask the Jamaican women to ponder these points. How many Jamaican men you have met and dated who dated you with the goal to marry you? One. Two, how many of them wanted to get to know you sexually but never mentioned marriage? Three, how many of them praised you for being the perfect woman that they have waited all their life to meet but never proposed?
Wow. Mary,
Sir,
you start on a premise that all women want to marry. Is that
most,
a true thing?
well, all is never true. Most is always, almost always correct.
Okay, and is it is it most women who really today want to marry?
I am sorry, I cannot say most. There are many women who do not want to marry. They are interested in married men because they do not want the responsibility. You have that group. And you have those who just want to use men. So it's not about men not wanting to marry. Some women do not want to marry either.
I agree
Mary.
totally. However,
Mary, you're on the floor.
However, I agree that some women want to use and exploit men, but we were created, the way we were created as human beings with this emotion, the emotions that God put in us to leave and cleave, and that commission that he gave us to get married and multiply is within deeply buried in most of us. And if we don't even want to get married when we're younger, we find that as we get older, that becomes the focus of wanting to have companionship for ourselves, not to share and borrow, of course, and not to exploit, but we want to have good, old-fashioned, pure companionship. Jamaican women, I believe, are disenfranchised because we possibly don't have men who are marriage-minded, marriage-focused. And I ask those questions because...
Why is that? Why do you feel that is so? And if it is so, if that is true, why is that?
I think it might be rooted in our history of slavery, where we saw the slave masters being real jocks and jockeys, multiplying children without any proper family background in place. And so we have our Jamaican men might have carried over some of that into our current society, where they'll go around making baby mamas unlimited, but they never think of putting down roots and settling down, where a man will believe that it's okay to plan to have children, turn a woman into a baby mama, but no thought of marriage. They believe it's fine.
Before Mary wraps up this, what's your take on that?
Who me?
Yes.
Well, Mary mentioned one point that we must remember, that the Jamaican men, we must remember that this institution of marriage, which is very old, it was not part of our operations for 400 years. During slavery, we Jamaican men, there was nothing called marriage, right? And therefore, some of the issues and problems that we are facing today in marriage, relationship, is coming from the plantation.
Absolutely. So I will say this, Mac. When my friends and I look at the whole thing of all the men that we have dated, and the fact that people will say, Mary, you're such a pretty, successful, talented girl, why are you not married? And I do a review of the men that I have come into contact with and my friends' experience. I'm realizing that men are not dating us with the end to marry. If marriage doesn't even occur to them, it's like you wake up and it's natural to eat and drink. It's not like that for them. While in other cultures, such as India, that people don't date unless they're looking to marry. We date to have sex. And a culture that dates to have sex, marriage is the furthest thing from their minds. So what does that cause, Sir Mac? In wrapping up, I will say.
Very interesting.
a culture which doesn't have a tradition of men, strong men that are looking to create strong families, will leave women feeling incomplete and emotionally void and empty because God provision for them to choose an helpmate. They also will not have children that they instill the proper moral code and values in, and those children will go on to become reckless in the society. They also do not have families that flourish with blessing because the man has a responsibility to keep that family together and bless them as per the provisions by God. So Jamaica is suffering from a lack of marriage-focused men.
All right, we're going to come back to you on that, on some of that, Mary. But Desmond, it's your turn. Your turn, Desmond.
Well, last week